Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a seriously fascinating reimagining of Hermann Hesse's classic novel, Siddhartha. Hesse asked this timeless question, can wisdom truly be taught? And honestly, in our hyper-modern, totally data-obsessed world, that question feels more urgent than ever. We're going to look at a collection of interconnected stories that literally drag this philosophical dilemma right into our daily lives.
Can wisdom truly be taught, or does guidance eventually replace experience? That is the core of what we are unpacking today. Just think about it for a second. We live in an era where we constantly outsource our biggest life choices. We turn to experts, podcasts, therapy frameworks, algorithms, and even AI to tell us who to marry, where to live, and exactly how to feel. And we do all of this, right, just to avoid the pain of making a mistake. But at what point does all this guidance actually start replacing our lived experience?
Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the modern wisdom problem. Then we'll deeply explore two stories: Daniel, who is paralyzed by research, and Maya, who built walls of independence. After that, we'll quickly preview Marcus's story about the right to fail, the river's lesson, and the final stories. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The Modern Wisdom Problem: Outsourcing Our Lives. So we live in a society that relies so heavily on external frameworks. We consume this endless stream of information, hoping, really just praying, it'll act as a shield to protect us from the inherent risks of, well, just living our lives.
Moving on to Section 2, Daniel, paralyzed by research, the man who followed every expert. This brings us to our first character, Daniel. Daniel is this highly successful consultant, and he has built his entire life around one thing: avoiding mistakes. Why? Because when he was young, his dad made these really reckless, gut-feeling decisions that completely ruined their family's finances. So Daniel swore he would absolutely never be that guy. As a result, he researches everything. He literally never just takes a leap. To give you an idea of just how extreme this paralysis is, Daniel has been dating this woman in Claire for 7 long years. Now, Claire wants to get married, and what does Daniel do? He literally consults 3 different artificial intelligences to analyze their relationship data. I mean, wow! The AI spits back an 84% long-term compatibility score. You'd think that'd be enough, right? Nope. Even an 84% guarantee couldn't give him the actual courage to propose.
Completely stuck, Daniel drops $4,800 on a 3-day decision clarity intensive retreat run by a famous expert named Dr. Aaron Bell. So on the first day, everyone has to write down their biggest life question on a card. Daniel writes, "Should I marry Claire?" And then Dr. Bell takes all the cards, throws them in a metal bowl, and just sets them on fire. When Daniel protests, Dr. Bell hits him with something so cutting. He tells Daniel that he already has enough information, but he's confusing clarity with permission. He is basically using research as an anesthesia against life.
And this, unfortunately, leads to a pretty devastating consequence. Claire packs her bags, and right before she walks out the door, she hits him with this devastating truth. "I'm tired of being almost chosen." She tells Daniel that he's actually hurting them by waiting around for this flawless guarantee that his future self won't regret the marriage. He just wanted someone, anyone, to tell him which path wouldn't hurt. And Claire walks away because, well, that path simply doesn't exist.
Okay, Section 3. Walls of Independence. The woman who needed no one. Let's see how this builds. Meet Maya. Maya is this woman whose friends are constantly admiring her boundaries. She never, ever loses herself in a relationship. But, secretly, she's using those boundaries to keep everyone at a perfectly safe emotional distance. She has become exceptionally good at being the one to leave first, emotionally speaking anyway.
To really understand Maya, we have to look at a psychological term she actually learned in therapy: emotional enmeshment. This is a pattern where personal boundaries just totally blur and people become way too entangled in each other's emotional lives. Maya learned this concept to protect herself from her mother, who is deeply manipulative and dependent. Her mom would basically collapse anytime someone disappointed her, making Maya entirely responsible for her feelings. So to survive, Maya built this impenetrable fortress of self-regulation. But here's the catch. She became so good at not being responsible for anyone else that she flat out refused to let anyone become responsible for her.
This intense defense mechanism gets put to the absolute ultimate test when her boyfriend, Ben, is suddenly diagnosed with lymphoma. You really have to notice the stark contrast in how she reacts. Her immediate instinct is total hypercompetence. She's making shared folders, researching top doctors, scheduling treatments, flawlessly managing his diet. But what is completely missing? Actual emotional vulnerability, fear, need, exposure. She utterly refuses to just sit there with him and be afraid.
Things finally reach a breaking point, and Ben tells her this incredibly powerful line. I don't need a competent person tonight. I need someone who is afraid to lose me. He realizes that she is just managing a crisis, not actually needing him as a partner. So Maya flees to her car, breaks down crying, and it finally clicks. She realizes her mistake. She had completely confused being responsible for someone's emotions with allowing someone to be important enough to actually break her heart. To truly love Ben meant accepting the terrifying possibility of losing him.
Moving to Section 4, Marcus, the right to fail. The daughter who refused her father's wisdom. So we've just taken a deep dive into Daniel and Maya, but I want to briefly touch on another absolutely incredible vignette in this collection about a guy named Marcus.
If you check out the full story on the website, you can explore this intense timeline of Marcus's life. You'll see how surviving his own really dark past, from a painkiller addiction at age 27 to sleeping in his car by 36, turned him into this incredibly controlling father.
And you'll see exactly how he attempts to, well, basically weaponize data and statistics, like cost of living estimates and industry salary data, just to crush his 21-year-old daughter's dream of dropping out of college to start a design business.
It begs the question, will his daughter, Elena, just blindly accept his perfectly researched conclusions? Or will she demand her fundamental human right to make her own mistakes? As she brilliantly puts it, you gotta become yourself through your mistakes. Why do I have to become myself through your conclusions?
It's such a brilliant confrontation. But to find out if Marcus can actually learn to stop predicting disaster and just provide her somewhere to land, you are going to have to read the full story for yourself.
Section 5. The River's Lesson, the Bicycle Repairman. Now, as the anthology progresses, all of these characters eventually wander down to the very same riverfront path,
where they happen to meet this quiet, elderly bicycle repairman, and he offers this beautifully grounded philosophy about life. He says, I fix the brake, can't flatten the hill. This simple interaction reveals a really powerful 5-step process for true wisdom. Ask, listen, think, choose, and finally, become responsible for that choice. It's a gorgeous framework about accepting authorship of your own life, and it perfectly ties the whole anthology together.
Finally, Section 6, the final stories, Evan and Noah. Because hey, if Daniel, Maya, and Marcus weren't already enough to get you thinking.
There's also Evan, a motivational speaker who literally turns the personal suffering of his family into viral, inspirational life content. And then there's Noah, an engineer who is so dangerously dependent on artificial intelligence that he actually asks an AI to decide whether he and his girlfriend should keep their unborn child. Wild, right?
To uncover the gripping resolutions for Marcus, the bicycle repairman, Evan, and Noah, and to just see the full, beautiful picture of this modern anthology, head on over to imaginarytalks.com/5-modern-Siddhartha stories. I promise you it is absolutely worth your time. So, I'll leave you with this final, somewhat provocative question to reflect on today. Are you really living your own life, with all its messy, painful, beautiful mistakes? Or are you just following the safest instructions? Really think about that as you head over to the website to read the rest of the stories. Thanks so much for learning with me today.